Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari. Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Kala Chanji Radha Kala Chanji Radhe. Jaya Jagannatha Jaya Jagannatha Jaya Baladeva Jaya Subhadra. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. Good morning. My name is Manjari Gopika Devi Dasi. Welcome to the Bhakti Breakfast Club. Breakfast of Champions, Srimad Bhagavatam class. Today we will be hearing from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 4. We're supposed to cover verses 34 through 54. Let's see what we can do there. But we'll definitely be focusing on verse 44. And before we begin, I ask for your blessings that I may speak something pleasing to my spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, and to all the devotees. Let's all together chant the invocation prayers. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narotamam devim sarvasvatim vyasyam tato jayamudirayet. Nashta prayesha bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. Om jnana timirandasya jnananjana shalakaya chakshurun militam yena tasmai shri gurave namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. All right. So we can go ahead and open up 6th Canto, Chapter 4, starting at verse 34. So what we'll do is I'll summarize verses 34 through 39, and then I think we can make it through. Read verses 40 through 54. Everyone can read 2 verses. But before we begin, just to recap what's going on here, Prajapati Daksha has performed austerities, severe austerities, and offered prayers to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And these prayers and sacrifices are done with the intent to fulfill his responsibility of expanding the population for the world's welfare. And Lord Vishnu is very pleased with these austerities and prayers, so he appears. In verses 34 to 39, Shukadeva Goswami describes the appearance of the Lord, and he appears at Agamarshana. He's mounted on his carrier Garuda. He's described, of course, as being incredibly beautiful with a blue complexion. He has many arms, and in each one he's holding a different weapon. He has a garland of flowers that goes from his neck all the way down to his lotus feet. He's adorned with divine ornaments such as the Kaustubha jewel and the Shrivast mark on his chest. He is accompanied by Narada Muni, the chief demigods, and the celestial residents from the various higher planetary systems. And they are all also offering prayers to him. So let us begin now with verse 40. Everyone can read 2 verses at a time, 40 through the end of the chapter. Don't have the microphone. Oh. Okay, we'll just start reading. Little technical difficulties. I guess you'll be hearing a lot of my voice. So, text 40. Seeing that wonderful and effulgent form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Prajapati Daksha was first somewhat afraid, but then he was very pleased to see the Lord, and he fell to the ground like a stick to offer his respectful obeisances to the Lord. As rivers are filled with water flowing from a mountain, all of Daksha's senses were filled with pleasure. Because of his highly elevated happiness, Daksha could not say anything, but simply remained flat on the ground. Although Prajapati Daksha could not say anything, when the Lord, who knows everyone's heart, saw his devotee prostrate in that manner and desiring to increase the population, he addressed him as follows.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "O most fortunate Prachetas, because of your great faith in me, you have attained the supreme devotional ecstasy. Indeed, because of your austerities, combined with exalted devotion, your life is now successful. You have achieved complete perfection."
My dear Prajapati Daksha, you have performed extreme austerities for the welfare and growth of the world. My desire is also that everyone within this world would be happy. I am therefore very pleased with you because you are endeavoring to fulfill my desire for the welfare of the entire world.
Read another one. Everyone read 2.
Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, the Manus, and all the other demigods in the higher planetary systems, and you Prajapatis, who are increasing the population, are working for the benefit of all living entities. Thus the expansions of my marginal energy are incarnations of my various qualities.
My dear Brahmana, austerity in the form of meditation is my heart. Vedic knowledge in the form of hymns and mantras constitutes my body, and spiritual activities and ecstatic emotions are my actual form. The ritualistic ceremonies and sacrifices, when properly conducted, are the various limbs of my body. The unseen good fortune proceeding from pious or spiritual activities constitutes my mind, and the demigods who constitute my orders in various departments are my life and soul. Before the creation of this cosmic manifestation, I alone existed with my specific spiritual potencies. Consciousness was then unmanifested, just as one's consciousness is unmanifested during the time of sleep.
I am the reservoir of unlimited potency, and therefore I am known as unlimited or all-pervading. From my material energy, the cosmic manifestation appeared within me, and in this universal manifestation appeared the chief being, Lord Brahma, who is your source and is not born of a material mother. When the chief lord of the universe, Lord Brahma, Swayambhu, having been inspired by my energy, was attempting to create, he thought himself incapable. Therefore, I gave him advice, and in accordance with my instructions, he underwent extremely difficult austerities. Because of these austerities, the great Lord Brahma was able to create 9 personalities, including you, to help him in the functions of creation.
My dear son Daksha, Prajapati Panchajana had a daughter named Ashikni, whom I offered to you so that you may accept her as your wife. Now unite in sexual life as a man and woman. In this way, by sexual intercourse, you will be able to beget hundreds of children in the womb of this girl to increase the population.
After you give birth to many hundreds and thousands of children, they will also be captivated by my illusory energy and will engage like you in sexual intercourse. But because of my mercy to you and them, they will also be able to give me presentations in devotion.
Sukadeva Goswami continued, after the creator of the entire universe, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, had spoken in this way in the presence of Prajapati Daksha. He immediately disappeared as if he were an object experienced in a dream.
And thus ends the 4th chapter of the 6th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Let us return now to the focus verse for today, which is text 44. And do the Sanskrit. Pritoham te prajanata yatte syod brimhanam tapaha Mammesha kamo bhutanam yadbhuyasur vibhutayaha. Please chant. Pritoham te prajanata yatte shod brimhanam tapaha Mammesha kama bhutanam yadbhuyasur vibhutayaha. Pritoham te prajanata yatte syod brimhanam tapaha Mammesha kama bhutanam yadbhuyasur vibhutayaha. Okay, we can do the synonyms together. Prita, very much pleased. Aham, I. Te, with you. Prajanat, O king of population. Yat, because. Te, your. asya, of this material world, udbrimhanam, causing increase, tapa, austerity, mama, my, esha, this, kama, desire, bhutanam, of the living entities, yet, which, bhuyasu, may there be, vibhutaya, advancement in all respects. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. My dear Prajapati Daksha, you have performed extreme austerities for the welfare and growth of the world. My desire also is that everyone within this world be happy. I am therefore very pleased with you because you are endeavoring to fulfill my desire for the welfare of the entire world. Purport. After every dissolution of the material cosmos, all the living entities take shelter in the body of Karanadakshayi Vishnu, and when creation takes place again, they come forth from his body in their various species to resume their activities. Why does the creation take place in such a way that the living entities are put into conditioned life to suffer the threefold miseries imposed upon them by the material nature? Here the Lord says to Daksha, you desire to benefit all living entities, and that is also my desire. The living entities who come in contact with the material world are meant to be corrected. All the living entities within this material world have revolted against the service of the Lord, and therefore they remain within this material world as ever conditioned, nitya baddha, taking birth again and again. There is a chance, of course, of their being liberated, but nevertheless the conditioned souls, not taking advantage of this opportunity, continue in a life of sense enjoyment, and thus they are punished by birth and death again and again. This is the law of nature, as the Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 7.14. Daivi hesha gunamayi mamma maya taratyaya mammeva ye prapadyante maya metam tarantite. This divine energy of mine, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome. But those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. Elsewhere in Bhagavad Gita 15.7, the Lord says, Mamme vamsho jiva loke, jiva bhuta sanatana, manashastan indriyani, prakritishtani karshati. The living entities in this conditioned world are my eternal fragmental parts. Due to conditioned life, they are struggling very hard with the six senses, which include the mind. The living entity's struggle for existence within the material world is due to his rebellious nature. Unless a living entity surrenders to Krishna, he must continue this life of struggle. The Krishna consciousness movement is not a fad. It is a bona fide movement intended to promote the welfare of all conditioned souls by trying to elevate everyone to the platform of Krishna consciousness. If one does not come to this platform, he must continue in material existence perpetually, sometimes in the upper planets and sometimes in the lower planets. As confirmed in Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya 20.118, Kabus Farge Utai, Kabu Narake Dubai. The conditioned soul sometimes descends into nescience and sometimes gets relief by being relatively freed from it. This is the life of the conditioned soul. Prajapati Daksha is trying to benefit the conditioned souls by begetting them to give them a life with a chance for liberation. Liberation means surrender to Krishna. If one begets children with the purpose of training them to surrender to Krishna, fatherhood is very good. Similarly, when the spiritual master trains the conditioned souls to become Krishna conscious, his position is successful. If one gives the conditioned souls a chance to become Krishna conscious, all his activities are approved by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is extremely pleased, as stated here, Pritoham. Following the examples of the previous acharyas, all the members of the Krishna consciousness movement should try to benefit the conditioned souls by inducing them to become Krishna conscious and giving them all facilities to do so. Such activities constitute real welfare work. By such activities, a preacher or anyone who endeavors to spread Krishna consciousness is recognized by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As the Lord himself confirms in Bhagavad Gita 18.68 and 69, Yadidam paramam guyam mad bhakte shabidasyati bhakti mai param kritva mammi vaishyati ashamsaya. Nacha tasman manusheshu kashchin me priya kritmama bhavita nacha me tasmad anya priya taro bhuvi. For one who explains the supreme secret to the devotees, devotional service is guaranteed, and at the end, he will come back to me. There is no servant in this world more dear to me than he, nor will there ever be one more dear. What a purport. Like, we just end class now. I guess we'll just recap. So this purport in this verse is so amazing because in this one section we answer all of life's questions. Why am I here? Why do we suffer? Who is God? How do I be happy? How do I make God happy? We're going to knock all these out before breakfast. Prajapati Daksha is given another chance here to fulfill his duties to humanity after his offense to Lord Shiva, which is recounted in the 4th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. So now 2 cantos later, here in Canto 6, he's resuming his role as Prajapati. So Daksha is an interesting personality. We won't spend too much time on him, but do want to say, he's interesting because despite his mistakes, he's a devotee of Lord Vishnu. And in his encounters with the Lord, as in the verses we read today, he shows ecstatic symptoms where he can't speak and his hair stand on end and tears pour from his eyes. So this indicates that he's really a very elevated devotee. And this reminds us that many great personalities like Indra are forgiven repeatedly for their offenses. Again, Daksha was really offensive to Lord Shiva not too long ago. But here he is again, seeing the Lord face to face with this bhav. So why are they given this opportunity again and again by the Lord? And it's because these personalities like Indra, like Daksha, they're aligned with the Lord's mission. Today's verse shows how pleasing it is to the Lord when one engages in the welfare activities of the Lord, which are the Lord's purpose, to bring all living entities closer to him. Okay, so that brings us to the purpose of life and the creation of the material world. So why did Krishna create this horrible world with birth, disease, old age, and death? Originally, we were with Krishna in Vaikuntha, but due to a spark of envy or some desire we had to enjoy separately, we found ourselves here. Krishna, out of his love, sent us to the material world. He gives us the chance to act independently. But he designed this world with experiences and challenges to help us understand that lasting happiness can only be found in him, with him. So the process of correction is very gradual. It takes many lifetimes. And it's aimed at helping us reconnect with Krishna as our true source of happiness. In Bhagavad Gita 15.7, as noted in the purport, Krishna explains, the living entities in this conditioned world are my eternal fragmental parts. As his parts, we possess a minute degree of his qualities, and one of those is independence. We can choose how to use this independence, either to serve Krishna or to forget Krishna and serve ourselves. When we misuse the independence, we become conditioned souls, entrapped by material desires and suffering the repeated cycle of birth and death. In today's purport, Prabhupada explains all the living entities within this material world have revolted against the service of the Lord, and therefore they remain within this material world as ever conditioned Nityabhada, taking birth again and again. In the 14th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Aham bij pradapita. I am the seed-giving father of all living entities. And just as a loving father allows his child to learn through experience, Krishna gives us the freedom to make choices and face their consequences. Good parenting often involves letting children experience the results of their actions. It's really natural for us to want to protect them and to make decisions for them, but it's really essential for us to step back sometimes and let them face the challenges they create for themselves, especially as they grow older. Parenting experts say that rescuing children from every hardship does not help them. It prevents them from learning responsibility, resilience, and the ability to make sound decisions. And this process of experiencing both success and failure is vital for their growth and development. So similarly, Krishna places us in the material world not to punish us, but to help us grow in understanding. And here in the material world, we experience the threefold miseries. Adhyatmika, the miseries arising from our own body and mind, such as disease, stress, and psychological suffering. Adhibhautika, miseries caused by other living entities, like conflicts with other human beings or disturbances from creatures, mosquitoes, bed bugs. And then adidaivika, miseries due to natural forces or supernatural causes like disasters. We read a lot about that in the news these days. In Bhagavad Gita 7.27, Krishna explains, all living entities are born into delusion, bewildered by the dualities arisen from desire and hate. So this duality is part of the design of the material world, where we come to play God. Krishna offers us material facilities so we can make choices and pretend to be God, but he simultaneously ensures that, everything has a downside. So all of our attempts to find happiness outside of him will always be frustrated. I heard His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj say, sometimes people ask, why do bad things happen to good people? But bad things happen to everyone, including good people. That's the law of the material world. Nobody actually wins here. These experiences, though, because they're difficult, they help us detach from false hopes and help us refocus on Krishna as the source of real peace. In Bhagavad Gita 5.29, Krishna says, he's Suhridam Sarva Bhutanam. He's the best friend of all living entities. He wants the best for us. He doesn't abandon us. He allows us to struggle and face consequences out of his love, and he patiently waits for us to recognize him. He's ready to welcome us back whenever we're ready. In the Katha Upanishad, it's described that the Jiva and the Paramatma are like two birds sitting on the same tree. One of the birds, the Jiva, is eating all the fruits out of the tree, while the other, the Paramatma, is watching his friend. And the bird who's eating the fruits experiences happiness and distress. But the bird who's just watching is free from all distress. And the story illustrates how the individual soul is engrossed in trying to enjoy the senses, wanting more, suffering when it doesn't have enough, and the super soul, who's merely observing, is just waiting for the soul to realize none of these fruits are going to fill you up. Just turn your face to me. And as soon as we do turn our face to Krishna, then the super soul guides us from within to find Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. But in the meantime, living entity is wandering around lifetime after lifetime, looking for happiness, which is a mission that is doomed to fail. And why is it due to fail? I want everybody to try something. Close your eyes for a second. Everybody close your eyes. Yes, even you, Jaishnav. I knew you wouldn't. Close your eyes. Okay, so I'm going to say a sentence. You fill in the blank at the end. Don't question it. Just fill it in with your mind, okay? I will be happy when. I will be happy when. You can open your eyes. So whatever answer you gave fits into two categories, generally. One, I will be happy in the future when I change the world to conform to my desires. Or, I will be happy now when I change my consciousness to conform to what Krishna wants. Most of us choose the former. I will be happy when I have more money, when my parents are proud of me, when I have a child, when I'm married, when I lose 10 pounds, when I get the promotion, when my roof is no longer leaking. But if we choose that former option, our faith is misdirected for 3 reasons. 1, you are not the controller, so the world will not conform to your desires. Even if you were successful, your achievement would be temporary. And even if it was permanent, it still wouldn't be real happiness. Our quest for happiness will fail if our objective is solely in the future, because no matter how much power we amass in the form of wealth, beauty, or fame, we're still not the ultimate controller. Only Krishna is the supreme controller. Something will go wrong that will frustrate us. Even the littlest thing out of our control can negate all happiness. Think of Bill Gates, all the money in the world. What problem can he not solve with money? But Bill Gates, having all the money in the world, can still get a toothache. And when he has that toothache, is he thinking about how he has all the money in the world? No, he's thinking about how to get rid of the toothache. And that's just how the material world is. In other words, in order to really be the enjoyer of the world, we have to be totally the controller of the world, and we're not. But let's say magic genie comes down, right? And you get to be the controller of the world. Even if we could control the world to conform to our desires, would we be happy? No, because everything is temporary and filled with duality. Duality means that even the best of material things is imbued with distress, because when something is temporary, there is fear of loss. And there's always pain when we do lose it. In the 11th canto, it's stated, Bhayam dvitya bine veshataha sayad ishad apatasha viparyo smriti. Fear arises when a living entity misidentifies himself as the material body because of the absorption in the external illusory energy of the Lord. When the living entity thus turns away from the Supreme Lord, he also forgets his own constitutional position as a servant of the Lord. We are always afraid. Afraid because we identify as a temporary body. We know we're going to die. We know the people we love are going to die. And we're afraid because we have forgotten Krishna. And we're always afraid because we know whatever pleasure we find in this world, it can go away. And this brings us to another important lesson, which is real happiness. The reason why, if you had all of these things, you still wouldn't be happy, aside from not being the controller, aside from these things have duality, is because real happiness, we know, doesn't depend on possessions or circumstances. Real happiness is consciousness. In Bhagavad Gita 2.71, Krishna describes true peace. He says, a person who has given up all desires for sense gratification, who lives free from desires, who has given up all sense of proprietorship and is devoid of false ego, he alone can attain real peace. And that state of peace is Krishna consciousness. It's not about abolishing our desires. Prabhupada has said there's no way to reach a desirelessness state, but redirecting our desires toward Krishna is Krishna consciousness. It does bring us peace and happiness. When we act in alignment with Krishna's purpose, we experience the deepest happiness and fulfillment, as Prajapati Daksha does in today's verse. And Krishna says to him, my desire is also that everyone in the world be happy. He's pleased with Daksha because he's engaged in real welfare work. He is helping others find happiness in Krishna consciousness. And just as a parent feels pleased when they see their older child taking care of the younger child, looking out for them, Krishna feels pleased when we help his other children connect with him. This is the highest welfare work, as it fulfills the purpose of creation, and it helps everyone find their way back home. In this world, everything has a purpose, from tools to objects. A phone, for example, serves a purpose. If it can't make phone calls, it's not fulfilling its function. Similarly, the purpose of the material world, as seen from Krishna's perspective, is to help souls realize their eternal relationship with him. When a living entity becomes frustrated by material suffering, they may begin to inquire, why am I suffering? Why do good things happen? Why do bad things even happen to good people? Why do good things happen to bad people? What is the meaning of life? How do I actually be happy? Is there a God? If this inquiry is sincere, the Supersoul arranges for them to encounter Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra, opening the door to liberation. But this door is only opened when we become frustrated. But this is why spiritual welfare work is so dear to Krishna. It provides a path for others to find true peace. So in closing, I'll just quote the verse from Bhagavad Gita that Prabhupada calls the peace formula. Many of you know it, so you can chant along. Bhoktaram yagnatapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram suhridam sarvabhutanam gyatfamam shantim richati. a person in full consciousness of me, knowing me to be the ultimate beneficiary of all sacrifices and austerities, the supreme lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities, attains peace from the pangs of material miseries. When we act in Krishna service, when we redirect our desires toward him, we find true peace and joy. And hopefully we can take inspiration to follow Daksha's example by dedicating our efforts to real welfare work, helping others rediscover their relationship with Krishna. Because after all, we wouldn't be here if there wasn't some devotee who had helped us. So it's our responsibility to think about how we can help others. And now the floor is turned over to you, whatever you would like to discuss. Hare Krishna. Tulsi Saki, thank you. Oh, microphone's behind you, Devi.
Hare Krishna, thank you for a very nice class. And there was so much, you covered so much. So I was thinking, every day we feel like when we are going through our daily responsibilities, chores, that, this is not, let's just go out and, distribute some books or something like that, which feels more direct. But then we also know that Prabhupada spent a lifetime in preparation before he visibly started this movement.
Can you put it closer to your mouth?
So for all of us, how do we determine, when to reduce our other responsibilities and when to press forward full on, given that you don't even know if your body is going to support you when you want to do full on devotional activity?
Well, definitely you could ask for more direct advice from your spiritual mentor. But I mean, I guess we all have a fantasy that we can just drop our responsibilities and go on Sankirtan. But yeah, there are really two sides to that sword. Sometimes we're, like Arjuna. When I was new to Krishna consciousness and I read all of this and then I was so disillusioned with the material world and I'm living in New York City and I'm like, you guys don't get it. This is all a scam, right? I just wanted to quit my job and move into an ashram. But that's trying to escape, right? We are living in a material world and many of us do have material responsibilities. And if you have material responsibilities, then we need to spiritualize our free time, which is we have a 9 to 5, so you need to make the hours 5 to 9 before work very powerful and the 5 to 9 after work very powerful. And utilize everything in the service of Krishna. So going on Sankirtan when you can, and really, we have to also, it's a tricky thing to answer because you always, what I have been taught is you should go to your edge. You should always be operating from your maximum, but your maximum will change in different phases of your life. When you have a newborn baby, your maximum is chanting 16 rounds a day and, helping both of you stay alive, really, right? But then when your kid is older and they're in school, then your maximum expands. The capacity you have to do more other service expands. So I think it's really dependent on the situation. I will say, though, that Prabhupada definitely noted that our movement is not a Babaji movement. It's not what he encouraged all of us to do, is to take sannyas and go sit and do bhajan in a dham. We are meant to function as a society, so to help in our community with Sankirtan and also the maintenance of the temple and just devotee care. I don't know if anyone else more senior than me would like to respond to that question. Kukulananda Prabhu.
I was thinking about when I listen to any class on YouTube, there is a setting where you can increase the speed, 2x, 4x, like that. So when there is something very important, then I slow down. And there is something which is important, but in general we know, right? So you can fast forward that. Then I was thinking how in Mumbai, when I lived in the ashram, I used to observe His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj. He would listen, now also, every day he listens to Srila Prabhupada. So whenever there was something that touched his heart, he would call everyone. And he would make everyone hear that over and over. And that would be his theme for next Sunday feast class or Bhagavatam class on the weekend. So I am also reminded of in economics in the college days, we had a concept I forgot. There was a theory. There is permutations and combinations of urgency and importance. Most important and most urgent and things like that. Less important, most urgent, and vice versa. So we need to jot down what is most urgent and most important, and that's where actually we need to focus. Rest of the things, as Prabhupada always said, just do the needful.
Thank you. I was hoping you were going to say that my class touched your heart and you were going to share it with everybody, but that was a very nice answer.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yeah, thanks for the nice class. Yeah, as somebody who's been in the Brahmachari ashram for like 3 years now, it's not that long actually, but anyways. But I've been at various temples, and what we have here in terms of Grihastha community is actually amazing. And so we shouldn't think, oh, I'd be better if I was quote unquote, there's a full-time devotee doesn't mean you're full-time in the ashram. It just means you're full-time devoted to Krishna. And when you're raising kids like this, kids that can sit in class and are listening the whole time is unbelievable. I've never seen this before. So, and those are the kids that become the next temple president, like Narsingha Rupa Prabhu,
Yeah.
So, and like, this is like pure devotee that we're talking about. So, yeah, we all have our own dharma. We all have our own like destiny or way that we're meant to serve Krishna. And Krishna says in the Gita that it's better to do your dharma improperly than to try to do somebody else's dharma. So that's all I had to say. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Very nice. Hare Krishna. I'd like to give a shout out to Mother Kunti. I've always said, I still haven't done it, that I need to get her a medal or a trophy that says World's Best Mom, because she's raised 2 temple presidents. Both of her children were temple presidents. Very special family. I love you, Mother Kunti, if you're listening.
Was this before the incident in the 4th canto where Prajapati Daksha got into a squabble with Lord Shiva and his head chopped off and he had to wear a goat's head?
No, this is after. He has been taken birth again, and this time he's the son of the Prachetas. Yeah.
Oh, he's taken birth again.
Yes, he takes birth again.
What happened to the goat head body?
That's a good question. I don't recall. Gokulananda Prabhu or anyone else, just Prabhu, what happens after the goat head incident? Is it stated? Oh, good. Just Prabhu.
He did some severe penances and he left his body, and then he comes back again, and Krishna gives him another chance. He's like, okay, well, here's your chance to do your job properly this time, and don't mess it up. And then
he will.
Yeah,
he does.
Yeah, there's a spoiler, but he does commit another offense.
Yeah, the next chapter, I think.
Yeah, It's an interesting point you brought up today, in that this personality who seems to kind of often make offenses somehow experiences these symptoms. Like there's two very serious offenses that he like makes in the Bhagavatam, at least. There might be others, I don't know. But then he has personal darshan of Krishna, and he, so anyways, perhaps if you have anything more to share on that, or how we can look at that and not say, oh well.
Well, what is interesting and hard for me to grasp is, I know the greatest offense you could do to the Lord is to offend his devotee, and Lord Shiva is the greatest devotee, and he really offended Lord Shiva. So yeah, that's something I kind of struggle to wrap my head around. But as I mentioned, all I can think of is that he really is trying to serve Krishna's mission. He did mess up in defending a devotee, but he's really trying to serve the Lord and bring everyone back to him. But he's a karma mishra bhakti. He's bhakta. He's not a pure devotee. This is what Radha Swami said. He's not a pure devotee of the Lord. So in that way, I guess we can see how offenses are committed. Gokulananda Prabhu, you were talking about this. Did you want to share any more realizations you had on this?
Just last week I was listening to Radhanand Maharaj's lecture on this particular episode, and he mentioned that how many of us actually feel those ecstatic symptoms when we go in front of the deities. He felt those symptoms, and he had although he was a karma mishra bhakta, but he had a responsibility to carry out, like Indra. And then he mentioned Indra offended Brajvasis. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
So, but we see that great personalities like Indra, Prajapati, Daksha, they keep getting chances over and over. That's because they're aligned with the purpose of the Supreme Lord, which is the welfare for the people in general, which is aligned with the purpose of reclaiming the fallen conditioned souls back to the spiritual world. And that's why in Srimad Bhagavatam we come across the verse where he says, Indra Ari, enemies of Indra, Vyakulam Lokam, Mridayanti Yuge Yuge. I appear, I'm just paraphrasing, millennium after millennium, just to protect Indra. So that much dear Indra is to Krishna. So because they are holding those posts, and while carrying out those responsibilities, they have to interact with the lower modes sometimes. So they might get affected by those lower modes, but the service and the greater responsibility that they have to carry out prevails over all these deficiencies in them, and they're removed. And sometimes they are also made the instruments at the hands of the Supreme Lord to teach the lessons to the people in general. Like in Srimad Bhagavatam, imagine if Indra didn't have to take up that role, then we wouldn't have had Govardhan pastime.
True.
And so like Lord Brahma, he knows, right? In 4 verses, he gave Srimad Bhagavatam. Krishna gave in Chatushloki, right, to Brahma, and then Brahma gave that, passed on to Narada Muni. But he's bewildered, and we have Brahma Vimohan Lila. So sometimes it is Krishna's desire. So Krishna's Yoga Maya potency covers over their knowledge to enact the pastime, enhance the pastime.
Thank you. Just a unit, Prabhu.
Yeah, I just this reminded me of something Burijan Prabhu was talking about, and he had this Krishna and Vrindavan series in Govardhan, and he was talking about how Akrura, his service was to take Krishna out of Vrindavan and take him to Mathura. Except Akrura, when he came, he didn't check with any of the Brajvasis. He didn't talk to them. He was just like, all right, we're going. And so all the Brajvasis were so angry at him, and they were like cursing him and things like that. And so kind of this theme came up that in discharging our service, like how Daksha would do his service and filling up the universe, still if one offends on the grounds of service, still there's a consequence. So Akrura, he had to live in a desert for some amount of years, and he couldn't see Krishna because of his offense to the gopis. So, yeah, I guess just for me, I'm thinking like, okay, I may have my service, I may have my things to do, but I should never use that as an excuse to make offenses. And there's always a way to do my service that I can be cautious, or I can check with others and make sure that they're okay and stuff.
Very nice. Thank you.
Rajwa says, but the counteract to the offense to the devotees is to beg forgiveness from that particular devotee. So Indra took shelter of Surabhi cow because he had offended Brajavasis and the cows. So he begged forgiveness also, so he was forgiven.
Yeah, thank you. Any other closing thoughts? Apparently Indra's still a common name in India. He Googled Indra, but he pulled up some pictures of men in India named Indra, so I had to put Indra Dev. Beautiful. I've been there to that kund. All right, well, thank you all very much for tolerating me. Thank you very much for your contributions. Maybe one day we can all bind Gokulananda Prabhu with ropes and drag him up to the Vyasasan.